Hello, I'm Liye Xie, Associate Professor of Anthropology at the University of Toronto. Today, I'm excited to take you on a journey back in time to explore how early cities in China was built and how these construction projects shaped the society and governance of Neolithic to early Bronze Age China. At the core of ancient urban construction was collective action. Building these cities required vast resources, large-scale labor force, and complex management system, akin to those used in large-scale military campaign. As such, making early cities wasn't just about building walls and structures. It was also about shaping how people worked together and how societies were governed. Each society found its own way to balance power and labor. Some emphasized cooperation and decentralization, others promoted centralized authority through elite control and coercion, which can lead to tension and conflict. With this in mind, let's turn to early cities in China to see how these dynamics unfolded and transformed both the physical and political forms. Oracle-born inscriptions reveal a highly organized bureaucracy of city construction in the Liye Xie dynasty. This system involved kings, supervisors of construction, craft overseers, laborers, conscripts, and war captives. This tells us the construction sites weren't just places for physical labor. They were also where leadership and organization skills came to the forefront. The story of 傅说局版筑之间 resonates with this. According to oral history recorded in the 3rd to 4th century BCE, 傅说 rose from a ram earth builder to chief minister. 傅说's origin is compelling. Mozi described him as a man wearing coarse clothes tied with ropes, signifying a laborer or possibly a prisoner at the time. Yet his exceptional leadership caught the attention of King Wu Ding, who elevated him to the position of High Duke, chief minister, leading to the effective governance and prosperity. Rammers mentioned in this story was one of the most significant construction techniques in ancient China for key structures like palaces, elite tombs, and city walls. This technique involves loading loose soil into wooden frames and compacted layer by layer to create solid walls and platforms. The process requires substantial human and material resources to gather at one place at the same time, as there's no pre-made components like mud bricks to assemble later. Archaeologically, we can see remains of such structure by identifying the unique, distinctive layers and layers of compacted soil. However, to understand the labor and resources involved and the social relationships that can emerge during construction projects require different methods like ethnoarchaeology and experimental archaeology. My work mostly focuses on experimental archaeology. So my team replicated the ram earth technology to build a wall. We started from excavating soils, transporting them to the construction site, built both the construction foundation pit and the wall above ground, using different rammers available at the time. These experiments help us estimate the time and labor involved for such projects and review how construction campaigns shape social relationships. During the experiments, my team naturally formed a hierarchy to manage tasks. Even though we operated cooperatively, they developed strong ties with each other and a deep sense of care for the quality of the wall. They really tried hard to ensure that the wall would stand way long after the project was finished. This demonstrates how construction projects can foster collaboration and share identity, connecting to the community, the governing authority, and the structures themselves. At the same time, it hits on the possibility of centralized control that could emerge depending on the scale and incentive of the project. Historical and ethnographic accounts reveals that 5 to 10% of the workforce acted as foremen to coordinate and supervise construction activities. Therefore, I argue that construction campaigns embody hierarchy, internalizing social order. With these insights, now let's explore how these dynamics unfolded at 4 key sites in the Middle Yellow River region: Wangchenggang, Pingliangtai, Taosi, Erlitou, or as what I would like to call them, Wipti. These sites predated Shang by over a millennium, likely laid the groundwork for the Shang's bureaucratic system of city construction. They were regional political centers with labor-intensive buildings, ramers buildings, and high-value goods that are crafted with advanced technologies, often using exotic materials. WIPT also stands for Ways Public Works Transform the Evolution of Society, a theme that connects these sites. Each site reveals a different scale of labor and organizational dynamics. Together, they showcase the diverse ways of construction projects shape early Chinese urban societies. Wangchenggang is a 35-hectare fortified settlement with large-scale public works, including ramers town walls. These walls are estimated at 74,000 cubic meters, enough to fill 30 Olympic swimming pools. With estimated population size of 2,000, only 500 to 650 would have had the physical capacity to participate in the labor force. This accounts for the exclusion of young children, the elderly, and the caretakers who were not likely to have engaged in construction. It would have taken this local workforce about 5 to 9 months to complete the walls. Building a city wall within a year sounds fast in today's world. However, the historical context tells a different story. In the Han Dynasty, construction campaigns typically happen only once a year, rarely twice, each lasting for about a month. This is to avoid disrupting agriculture and avoid unsuitable weather. If similar strategy were employed in Wangchenggang, constructing the walls would have required years, or they would require engaging neighboring communities to speed up the process. The construction is also associated with ritual and violence. Foundation pits associated with the wall contain human and animal sacrifices. The largest one contained 7 human sacrifices. These actions were likely indication of coercion or symbolic sanctification, or both. The scale and labor and the integration of violence in Wangchenggang's construction reflect the dual function of such public works, not only to build the physical spaces, but also to shape social order. The second site I would like to discuss is Pingliangtai. At just about 3 hectares and population of about 600, it challenges the traditional definition of urbanism, which often emphasizes scales. Instead, Pingliangtai showcased advanced infrastructure, careful planning, and regional significance. The site featured a square layout with axial symmetry, a planning tradition rooted in functionality and symbolic order that influenced subsequent urban design across East Asia. It also has China's earliest drainage system, demonstrating both careful planning and technological sophistication, hallmarks of urban centers. Additionally, the discovery of the China's earliest wheel routes reflects advanced transportation infrastructure. Pingliangtai played an important role in the political, cultural, and economic landscape of its time. Material evidence reveals connection to a wider region, including the middle and lower Yangtze River, hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, and indicates specialized craft production. Pingliangtai was built for flood management and featured disproportionately large moats and town walls. Constructing the wall alone would have required 1.5 to 3.5 months, and the moat would have required additional labor. This site also stands out for its hierarchical social structure. Residents lived in uniform townhouses and were buried with no differences in wealth, both of which indicate a much more evenly distribution of power and wealth compared to other sites. Ritual also played a key role in Pingliangtai's construction, but is not for coercion. At the town gate, 4 complete domesticated cattle were sacrificed, and cattle scapulae were used for diversion. The ritual likely strengthened cooperation and helped the community adapt it to environmental stress. Now let's turn to Taosi, a much larger site that offers a unique perspective on early political complexity. Some Chinese scholars argue that Taosi might have been the capital of King Yao, a semi-mythical sage king celebrated in early Chinese oral history. From its beginning, Taosi rulers directed urban construction from the top down. They construct a palatial complex enclosed by massive ram earth walls. These walls, with a volume equivalent to 145 Olympic swimming pools, require 4 to 6.5 months of local labor. However, whether Taosi had city walls enclosing the entire settlement remained debated due to archaeological ambiguity. What's clear, though, is that Taosi's rulers prioritized elite-focused structure over public works that could benefit a broader population. In addition to the palatial complex, they built a ram earth astronomical observatory with restricted access and a separate elite cemetery, solidifying their control over both physical and symbolic landscapes. Burial practices and housing also reveal a highly stratified society. The highest elite live in large, elevated houses. They were buried in grand tombs with hundreds or even thousands of high-value goods, while the poorest live in tiny pit houses and rested in cramped pits with little to their name. All of these imbalances likely have contributed to social instability. By 1900 BCE, the palatial structures and observatory were destroyed. Elite corpses were dragged out of their tombs. Commoners moved into former elite areas and reburied elite goods with themselves, killed more than 50 people in the palatial complex, and dumped dismembered young men in trash pits. These findings point to significant conflicts, possibly a revolt against the ruling elites. Or some scholars argue that the destruction resulted from external conquest. Either way, in my view, resistance to the rising socio-economic hierarchy likely played a critical role in Taosi's collapse. If Taosi was indeed linked to King Yao, the evidence suggests that the Sage King was far less harmonious than the oral history portrays. Alternatively, it's also possible that his successors fail to sustain the established hierarchy, leading to the society's eventual disintegration. Finally, let's talk about early Tao. It's one of the most significant Bronze Age sites in China, and many Chinese scholars suggest that this could be the capital city of the legendary Xia dynasty. This site holds a special place in my heart. I participated in the excavation as a graduate student and wrote my master's thesis on the stone tools discovered from this site. Early Tao is of a similar size to Taosi, 300 hectares, but it followed a different trajectory in urban development and political complexity. It began through a bottom-up process, with migrants resettling after floods made nearby villages unlivable. Over time, it transformed into a political center with a hierarchical organization and extensive economic integration. The layout reflects its complex governance strategies. It didn't have city walls. Instead, it featured 9 walled districts, likely organized by kingship or occupational groups. The palatial temple district and elite-controlled craft workshops demonstrate how spatial organization reinforce elite authority while maintaining localized cooperation within neighborhoods. Elite workshops produce high-value goods like bronze vessels and turquoise ornaments, symbols of political and ritual power. The ruling class controlled the production and distribution of these goods, consolidating their authority and fostering regional political integration. Early Tao also maintained an extensive network, sourcing exotic materials from as far as the Indian Ocean. These networks were more than economic. They were mechanisms of political legitimacy, demonstrating the ruling class's capacity to access distinct resources, forge alliances, and extend their influence over a larger region. However, elite control was not without coercion. Human sacrifices, some buried alive, became increasingly common, signaling a reliance on ritualized violence to reinforce elite control. With an estimated population of 18,000 to 30,000 people, constructing the neighborhood walls across the site would have taken the workforce about 2 months. Coordinating thousands of workers across these districts would have posed significant bureaucratic challenges. My research team is investigating whether these neighborhood walls were constructed independently by different districts or were executed under centralized planning. Ultimately, Early Tao's integration of political, economic, and ritual systems demonstrates how its ruling classes balance localized cooperation with centralized control to create one of the most sophisticated societies in its time. In conclusion, the early urban construction projects we explored today highlight 2 crucial aspects of political development in Neolithic and early Bronze Age China. First, the co-creation of physical and political forms. Constructing early urban cities were not just engineering achievements, they were also instruments of social transformation. They mobilized labor and resources, embodied hierarchy, internalized social order, and laid the groundwork for complex bureaucratic systems. Second, the political trajectory were diverse. Remember Whipty, Wangchenggang, Pingliangtai, Taosi, and Early Tao. Each site illustrates a unique path to political complexity. Wangchenggang's large city walls intertwine with hierarchy and coercion. Pingliangtai's shared responsibility for water management foster cooperation and decentralized governance. Taosi's elite-focused construction projects amplify power imbalances, leading to resistance and conflict. Early Tao balanced centralized control and ritualized coercion with community building. Together, these sites illustrate ways public works transform the evolution of society. WIPT, highlighting dynamic and diverse experiments in governance during early urbanism in China. While our labor estimates may evolve with further research, the trajectory of these sites remain robust for understanding early urbanism in China. And although we have focused on public work, ritual and economic activities also play an equally important role in shaping these political systems. Ultimately, these diverse experiments in governance lay the foundation for the bureaucratic system seen in the subsequent Shang Dynasty and beyond. The interplay between collective actions and governance, both in ancient times and today, remains a key driver for how societies are built and sustained. Finally, I would like to thank the Jackman Humanities Institute for supporting my 6-month research leave for this project, my construction team for sharing their passion, knowledge, and skill, my collaborators in China for facilitating my examination of these sites, and many friends who inspire me intellectually over the years. Thank you all so much.